So we're now going to look at simplifying, which I've already written out, and that is because I cannot trust myself to spell it correctly on camera. So let's have a look at some examples. So if I wrote ABC, I'm not writing the alphabet because this is in English, but what that actually means is in here there are invisible multiplication signs. So if a letter is next to a letter or a number in a letter, it means you have to multiply them together. So this actually means A multiplied by B multiplied by C. So for example, if I had A times A times A, that would be A cubed, which we know from the past, which is kind of ABC, but it'd be AAA. But you would not write A, because that looks a bit weird for obvious reasons, so that's why we have this type of stuff. Let's get rid of that. If we had A, B, C squared, so similar to this, we know from squared numbers that C squared is C multiplied by itself, and we know from up here, that we have A multiplied by B multiplied by, this time C squared, C times C. Okay, what if we have A, B minus C cubed? So again, we've got this term, brackets, which also mean multiply by this term. So we're going to have A multiplied by that. But as we know from this rule, A cubed is A multiplied by A multiplied by A. So B minus C cubed is B minus C multiplied by B minus C multiplied by B minus C. So the answer to this is A multiplied by B minus C multiplied by B minus C multiplied by B minus C. Okay, let's clear some room. So what if we had this? So we know that something squared is that thing multiplied by itself. So what are we squaring? Because this bracket is around the whole thing, it means we're squaring AB. So we could write this AB multiplied by itself, AB. But we know before from, I wrote this one at the side actually, ABC equals A times B times C. We know using this fact here that if they're next to each other there's a mini multiplication. So this then becomes A multiplied by B multiplied by A mini, there we go, multiplied by B. So that'd be one way of writing that. All means the same thing. Basically, what if we have A plus A plus A? This all makes much more sense if you think about it, because it's kind of like having, let's just say A is an ant. We kind of have one ant. Honestly, how many legs do ants have? Kind of have two bodies, don't they? It's not really the point. Then we're going to have 3 ants. So I'm just going to write that out. 3 ants. Didn't really want to draw another 3. So we've got an A, an A, and an A. So we have 3A, basically. And you can kind of think of that like, if I had T plus T plus T, so I'm going to picture that, just think of it, try and translate it into English and say, oh, think of that as like, oh, if I had a cup of tea, I had another cup of tea, I had another cup of tea, I'm going to have 3 cups of teas, so I've got 3 tea. Don't know if those analogies make it easier or just a bit batty. Was going to do 7C minus 3C plus 2C. These are all like terms because of the C. So therefore, again, kind of think of that, what could be a C caterpillar? Why am I obsessed with insects and mini beasts? I do not know. But if you have 7 caterpillars minus 3 caterpillars plus 2 caterpillars, it just makes so much more sense than seeing. Obviously, some people can just read that off and do it, but just one way to think about it. Ooh, mixing the colours up. Nice. So 7 minus 3 is 4 plus 2, so we've got 6C. Okay, what if we now mix up the terms? Wow. So by mixing up the terms, I mean, for example, 2D plus 3C plus 4D. So the way to do this, I would say, is like, just to make it clear for you, is circle like terms. So we have here plus 4D, and here we have 2D. And we know it's not negative 2D because otherwise it would say, so this has an invisible plus. And because you know these are both D's, you can now just add them together like we did before. So like 2 dinosaurs, 4 dinosaurs, 6 dinosaurs type thing. And then we can't do anything with this 3C because it's a C and not a D. That would be like adding 6 dinosaurs plus 3 caterpillars. Like, that's just what you have. You can't add them together because you'd have a dino caterpillar, which would be really weird. I'm kind of picturing it now. If I had 4 plus 2 root 2 minus 2 plus 5 root 2. Again, I would do the circling method. I still do this now. It just helps because especially when you've got loads of terms, it can get confusing. And with minus signs, it's literally just the best way. So I think this one and this one, so plus 2 root 2 plus 5 root 2, they've got the same, they're like terms, and then I'm going to do a square, even though I've changed colours, but realistically no one's going to be changing colours in the exam, so I'd do a square, do a different shape. And then here we know it says 4, but we know that's positive 4 because we just don't write it because we're lazy. So collecting like terms, we just do the same thing. We've got 4 minus 2, like we've all been doing that for a while, so 4 minus 2 is 2, plus, and then we have 2 root 2 plus 5 root 2, and this is literally, this root 2 would be, is kind of, you could replace it with, for example, a C, so then it would be 2C plus 5C, you would have 7C, or 7 root 2 in this case. So just think of it, don't let it throw you off basically. Like if I've got 2 root 2's plus 5 root 2's, I have 7 root 2's. Just think of it again as an object if you want to, if that works for you. Okay, again, same trick. Here, invisible plus sign because lazy. Like terms, got an x squared and an x squared. Well, we've got 3 of them, but then we have 4 plus 4xy, and then this one, don't let this fool you, even though this one says yx, it's exactly the same thing. You can switch the order around, so yeah, the order doesn't matter. So negative 2yx is the same as negative 2xy, because if we were going to write that, it would be minus 2 times y times x, which is minus 2 times x times y, and you can just, you know that multiplication you can switch around. So for example, 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2, and it works the same with letters. So yeah, don't let that throw you off. These can be simplified. So we've got 3x squared plus an x squared, so we've got 4x squared. Again, think of x squared as something else that doesn't confuse you if you want to. We've got 4xy minus 2xy, which is plus 2xy, and then you've got the 5 that by itself, can't do anything to that. Okay, and then want the perimeter of the dance floor, but I want it simplified, so perimeter. So perimeter is the length, this is perimeter. So I've got this side, I've got this side, I've got this side, which is the same as this side, so I'm just adding all the lengths up. And I've got this side, which is the same as this side. Okay, that's not the final answer because we've got like terms in there, so it's gonna want we're gonna want to simplify it. So there, mini positive, mini, invisible. I guess it is kind of mini. Squares, and those are the same. So let's do this. So we've got 5x's plus 5x's, so like 5 apples plus 5 apples, we're going to have 10 apples, 10 x's. And we've got 3y. I'm going to then, so we can now get rid of the bracket because there's nothing on the outside except positive 1 to multiply it by, so it's going to be the same. Now we've got y's. So 3y plus 3y is 6y, and plus 1, and then that is centimetres. So I'm going to start with p squared plus p squared plus p squared. So we know that this is p times p. That's kind of not what we're after here because they're already all p squares. We don't really need to do that, but that might be what you immediately think. But just think again, maybe think of these p squareds as something else. Pizzas, doesn't really matter. Let's say we've got 1 pizza, 2 pizza, 3, 1 pizza and another pizza and another pizza. We've got 3 pizzas, so we've got 3 p squares basically. So it's just that fact of just the adding. Adding just makes more sense if you think of it more in languagey terms. So that would just be 3p squared. 2r times 5p. Okay, so we know from the, which I rubbed out, that's ABC. We know that 2 letters multiplied together can just be put together, and we know that you can just multiply numbers. We know that 2 times 5 is 10, hopefully. So we know that that is 10, and we know that we can just put 2 letters together. So we've got RP, because R times P is RP. RIP. And I won't add it there, that's a bit morbid. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Numbers, they just follow what you've always known, so don't let it throw you off. And letters, if there's a times in the middle, just put them together, it's just not needed. Don't need to write it there, and we don't like to faff around. Okay, simplify this expression. So I'm looking at that, I'm thinking it's quite a long expression, can probably be simplified realistically. So then I just go around, I circle that one, I think, mini plus, not mini, invisible. A, and then I'm just going to stick with the same colour, so I've got 7b, I've got b, negative 3b here. So if I look at the a's, I've got 2a plus an a, so that would be like 2 apples plus an apple. We're going to have 3 apples, or 3a. And I've got 7 b's, can think of those as b's, like buzzing bees, 7 b's minus 3 b's is 4 b's.